Hello everybody and welcome to a new video of Python tutorials for beginners series. In this video we will be taking a look at different types of numbers in Python and also how to do some simple mathematical operations with them in order to get some results. If you're interested in more Python content, you can check out the previous videos in this series linked in the description, and you can also subscribe and turn on the bell notifications in order to get notified when I upload more Python content. So let's get started with the video. Firstly, as you may have already known from our variables and data types video on this series, there are two main types of numbers in Python. So let's declare a variable and call it num. We can assign any number to this variable, but let's start with integers. So the first main type would be integers, and integers are basically full numbers. So 4 would be an integer, 100 would be an integer, even -1 would be an integer. These are all full numbers. And there are also floats. Floats would be the decimal points. So for example, 0.6 would be a float, or a 5.3 would be a float. And any type of number that is ending with a floating point number would be a float. And float and integers are basically the two most commonly used number types in Python. So let me just show you a quick way of printing these numbers within strings. Obviously, you can just print these by saying print and putting the variable name inside that print statement, and it would work perfectly fine. As you can run and see the results, it prints 5.3 as the data our variable stores. However, if you wanted to print our variable with some text in it, so let's say here is the number, and then print the number with the variable name, this wouldn't work. And as we see, we get a type error. Because in Python, strings can only be concatenated with types of strings. And this has a type of float. Therefore, we cannot simply add them or concatenate them with a plus sign. Therefore, what we have to do is actually convert this float into a string type. And we do it by str function in Python. And we put in the variable name inside the str function. Now that we have converted the float type into a string type, now we can concatenate the string with this string in the beginning, and we can just run the file. And as we can see, here is the number 5.3 is concatenated in the output. Also, another way of printing the number variable with a text next to it would be, so let's just write the same text actually. Here is the number, and we can write it like that. Putting a comma would actually not require both of the types being strings. So we can just write num right now, and this would still print the same exact output as we can see. So this was the way of printing number variables within strings. I just thought this could be helpful in some of the practices you may want to work on. And obviously in Python you can do a lot of mathematical operations with these number variables. And let me just show you a few of them, actually 6 of the most popular mathematical operations in Python. So let me just create a little cheat sheet here. So here are some of the main operations to talk about in this video, and these can all be done with any type of numbers in Python. So let me just quickly start with addition. And for addition, and actually for almost all of these operations, we will need two numbers. So let's just create a num1, and 5.3 is now okay for it. Actually, let's create an integer, so 5, and num2, let's make it equal to 3. Okay, so let's start with addition. We can print the result of addition as we have previously discussed, like this. And let's add these up by plus sign, and let's see the output. You are probably already guessing the output, but the result is 8. So the addition in Python, like in mathematics, is with the plus sign, and we can just add these numbers or variables up with a plus sign. These numbers could have been float numbers as well. So let's just create some other numbers. And if we printed out the addition of these, as you can see, we are able to see the result of these floats. So now let's get to subtraction. And the same way actually works for these. So let's again work with integers just because it's easier to see the results. So let's subtract 13 from 45, and let's see the results. And the result is 32, as you may have guessed again. And in Python, the multiplication is with the star sign. Well, this is not like this in mathematics. So let's just do a quick demo on it. 15 times 3, let's say, and let's multiply these. And when we multiply them, the result is 45. So there is also the division sign in Python, and that's just slash. We can just divide two numbers with slashes, and let's see what happens here. And as we can see, we get a 5. So again, these numbers actually don't have to be integers, so it could be 15.5, and the output or the division result would change accordingly to these numbers. So as you can see now, it has some floating point numbers after the value, and that's because the first value isn't fully divided by the second value. So now let's get to exponential expressions, and let me just take 2 to the 5th power, actually, and we can just do these by 2 star signs. 2 star signs combined means exponential in Python, and let's just test it out really quick. And it's 32, as we might have guessed. And if we change the exponent by 6, the result will change accordingly, and now it's 64. And another really useful operation in Python is the modulus operation. So the modulus operation basically returns us the leftover in a division. So let's say we are dividing 15 by 4. Since the closest number to 15 that is fully divisible by 4 is 12, the leftover would be 3. And that's 15 minus 12, so let's just test it. And as we can see, the result of our modulus operator is 3. And now there's also the floor division operation that is actually similar to the opposite of what modulus operation is doing. And this floor division will divide the dividend by the divisor fully, and it will always return an integer. So let's just make a simple example, and let's say 15. Okay, let's go with 15 again. And let's say num2 is 2, and let's change it to double slashes to use the floor division operation. And when we run this code, the output will be 7, because simply 15 isn't fully divided by 2, and therefore the floor division will run the result into the lower end of the division result. And these were some of the most basic operations or mathematical operations you could do in Python, and they'll really be useful in calculating any type of value or working with numbers. And now I just want to show you how to get number inputs from the user, because not always you will define these variables and just set 15 or 2 just like I did before, but sometimes you'll get some inputs from the user and your program will have to act upon those inputs. So let's just create our num variable again, and this time let's get an input. Let's enter a prompt. Okay, so when we run this program, we will get an input, and let's add 5 to the input we get and print it out to the screen and see if this will work. And actually, this won't work, because let's just see why it won't work. Let's enter 3, and as you can see, we get a type error. And this is because the input we are getting here is converted to string. So the input we entered here, 3, is actually look like a number, but it's actually a string. And this is because every input is actually converted to string. And if you want to convert them to a different data type, you have to use Python's functions. So in order to convert this input into the integer, we have to use int function like this, and then we have to put the whole input statement into the int function. So now let's try to run it again, and let's enter 3 again. And now when we enter, we get 8 because the input is actually converted into integer, and it's now an integer type of 3. And now this integer is able to be added into 5, and the result is obviously 8. So if you have understood everything so far, you are doing great. And let's just make another quick example or a practice, or you may call it a project, to further improve our understanding of working with numbers and doing some mathematical operations with them. In this example, we will be prompting our user for a degrees Celsius value, and we will be converting that value into Fahrenheit. So you can prompt your user to enter whatever you want. You can convert that entered value into integers, floats, or you can modify the challenge however you want, but here is how we will implement this. So let's just get an input from the user. Let's call the variable Celsius. In my case, I will just convert the value into floats just because this can give us more precise values if our user enters values with decimal places. And then let's just prompt them to enter degrees Celsius. So now we have this Celsius value stored in the Celsius variable. And now what we have to do is convert this value into Fahrenheit. So actually Fahrenheit are equal to, so I'm just write the function here, 5 times Celsius over 9 plus 32 as far as I can remember. And we will have to convert this into how we do things in Python. And so let's get to it. And so first of all, let's just declare a variable named Fahrenheit. And then as we see, we have to multiply Celsius by 5. So let's just do it. And as you might remember, the multiplication sign in Python was star sign and Celsius. So then we have to divide it by 9, and the division sign is the same. And now we've divided it by 9. And in addition to all of these, we have to add 32. And now that we have got Fahrenheit, let's just print it out to the screen. And we won't just print out the number and leave it as an unknown number. We will print it with some strings attached to it. So let's write Fahrenheit and then variable into this. And now when we run the program, we will be prompted to enter a degrees in Celsius. So let's just write 22.7. And now as the output says, the Fahrenheit conversion of the 22.7 is 44.6. And now we have successfully run our program and completed our first project by working on numbers and mathematical operations in Python in just a few lines of code actually. And thanks a lot for watching until this point of the video. And if you found it helpful, please share it with your friends or leave a like. You can also subscribe and turn on the bell notifications in order to be the first ones that will be notified when the next videos of this series will be published. Thanks again for watching until here, and I hope to see you in the next video.